And for the next half hour, she'll be reading from the Investigative Post on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service.
Upstate New York ICE arrests surge under Trump. Many detentions were due to changes in federal rules that stripped immigrants of legal status. More than two-thirds had no criminal record. ICE arrests of migrants across upstate New York more than quadrupled last year following Donald Trump's return to office. A total of 3,722 people were arrested by Immigration and Customs Enforcement between January 20th, 2025 and January 21st of this year. That compares to 787 arrests in 2024. The Trump administration has said repeatedly that it's targeting only the worst of the worst. But federal data analyzed by Investigative Post shows that less than one-third of those arrested in upstate had a criminal record. Of those, half were already behind bars. Agents merely picked up their targets from a prison or jail. Rather, the spike in arrests is due in part to the federal government changing the rules on migrants who were living in the country legally, enabling agents to detain them. Slightly more than half of those arrested by ICE last year, 1,971 people, were in the midst of the asylum process that generally allows migrants to live and work in the country legally without danger of arrest. The Trump administration, however, has changed numerous policies, stripping migrants of protections and resulting in their arrests while their cases wind through the courts. In 2024, under President Joe Biden, 78% of those arrested in upstate New York had exhausted their legal options to remain in the country and were issued final deportation orders. Under Trump, just 47% of arrestees had final deportation orders. We've seen the Trump administration change the rules on immigrants drastically, said Mario Bizzone, Vice President of Policy for the New York Immigration Coalition. They have really focused and really driven the mass deportation agenda by focusing on everyday immigrants. Despite the sharp increase, the number of arrests in New York ranks last among ICE's 26 field offices nationally, accounting for just 1% of 340,122 made during Trump's first year back in office. Still, the arrests represent a sharp increase over years past, Investigative Post found. Across the 8 counties in western New York, arrests jumped from 464 in 2024 under Biden to 1,489 under Trump, a 220% increase. Nearly 9 in 10 arrested under Biden had criminal records or were already imprisoned, the vast majority at Wendy Correctional. Further examination of the Western New York numbers show that of the nearly 1,500 arrests, more than two-thirds were native to Mexico or Latin American countries. Two-thirds of all arrestees have since been deported. Nearly three-quarters were picked up in a raid, traffic stop, or on the street. According to observers, these arrests often involve agents in unmarked vehicle demanding proof of citizenship and spiriting arrestees away quickly. The vast majority of those arrested in western New York ended up at the ICE detention center in Batavia, which has been overcrowded for months. What we saw ICE do this past year in Western New York is devastating, said Assemblymember Jonathan Rivera, who noted the mass arrests could harm the local economy. We will have problems in healthcare because we will lose workers. We will have a problem in construction because we will lose workers. We'll have problems in our service industry. A spokesman for the Department of Homeland Security said the agency has been delivering on President Trump's promise to the American people to arrest and deport criminal illegal aliens, including murderers, rapists, pedophiles, gang members, and terrorists. We will continue to deliver on the president's promise to make America safe again, the spokesperson added. Parsing the numbers. The data, released by lawyers and academics with the Deportation Data Project, is the most comprehensive look yet at Trump's immigration crackdown. Data for ICE's Buffalo office covers 48 counties in upstate, including Western New York. Excluded are the state's remaining 14 counties in Long Island, New York City, and those immediately north and northeast of the city. The ICE arrest data is an undercount of those affected by the immigration crackdown. It does not include, for example, an unknown but significant number of arrests made by Border Patrol agents or other agencies involved in immigration enforcement. Most arrestees have no criminal record. 2/3 arrested by ICE during Trump's first year back in office had clean histories. Detention data offers a slightly clearer view of the crackdown. Most of those arrested are initially sent to the federal detention center in Batavia, where the population last year was double the number of ICE arrests. Batavia housed 7,300 detainees last year, compared to nearly 3,400 over the course of 2024. Additionally, the data shows that for the first time, other facilities, including Border Patrol stations and local jails, were used to hold migrants last year. Some 300 were booked into the Border Patrol station in the town of Tonawanda, while another 475 were held at the Allegheny and Niagara County jails. Niagara County Sheriff Michael Filicetti, a Republican, has since announced he would limit his agency's cooperation with ICE, detaining only migrants accused of crimes. The data shows that ICE last year also stepped up its involvement in immigration enforcement at the bridges between Western New York and Canada. While U.S. Customs and Border Protection typically operate those sites, ICE made 78 arrests at the bridges last year. None were recorded in 2024. It took Trump administration several months to ramp up its immigration operation. ICE under Biden averaged 130 arrests per month at its peak in 2023. It took until March last year for Trump's ICE to beat that rate. Since June, it has averaged 385 arrests monthly. Latinos are hit the hardest. The data shows nearly 2/3 of those arrested last year across upstate New York were Latinos from countries including Ecuador, Mexico, Guatemala, and Venezuela. Most of them lived in or near urban areas like Buffalo, Rochester, or Syracuse. Ecuadorians were arrested more than anyone. Last year, 875 were arrested, compared with 96 in 2024 and 170 in 2023. Mexicans, too, have been a target. Last year, 497 were arrested, compared to 144 in 2024. Deportation spiked in 2025. The number of immigrants arrested upstate and removed from the country jumped fourfold last year. Ecuadorians and Mexicans also topped the list of those arrested in western New York's 8 counties. Alberto Capes, publisher of Buffalo Latino Village, a monthly newspaper, said the community wasn't adequately prepared for Trump's crackdown. "We got caught with our pants down," he said. "I knew it was going to happen. My concern is that the community did not know that it was going to happen. The different nationalities," Kappa said, "aren't significantly interacting with each other. They ought to," he said, "but many people are simply living day to day trying to survive. Things are not going to get better, they're going to get worse. We're trying to alert the community there's a storm coming, and we have to be prepared for that." Arrests continue. The data shows arrests have not slowed in the first months of 2026. Through March 10th, 834 have been arrested across upstate. If that pace holds, arrests this year will top 4,300, more than last year's 3,722. A lawsuit filed last week in federal court in New York City offers a recent example. In late January, a Latino couple living in Buffalo was arrested in the parking lot of a Walmart in Cheektowaga. Immigration, let me see your papers," an agent shouted at the couple as they were getting into their Hyundai, the lawsuit states. The husband and wife, known by the initials FRP and RCR in the lawsuit, presented the agent with their work authorization, Social Security, and state ID cards. Both have active asylum cases. Before he looked at the documents, the agent told him that they were detained and not to make a scene, the lawsuit alleges. He spoke on a radio device in English and told RCR and FRP that they were illegal. The agent had no warrant for their arrests. The couple was detained separately, with RCR, the wife, sent to an ICE detention center in Louisiana, while FRP, the husband, was sent to Batavia. Both suffer health complications in lockup. In Louisiana, the wife, who was 55, contracted COVID-19, developed an ear infection, a tooth infection, and a gastrointestinal condition with blood in her stool, the lawsuit states. The agents at the Louisiana facility did not provide the wife with a change of clothes or allow her to bathe. She had to sit in soiled underwear for 3 days. With her asylum case pending, ICE released her on $25,000 bond after she'd been detained for a month. In Batavia, the lawsuit alleges, ICE withheld thyroid medication from the husband. The lawsuit claims agents told the 63-year-old they would only provide him medicine if he agreed to be deported. Agents also did not allow FRP to shower or brush his teeth, and they did not give him any water, the lawsuit claims further. When he asked for water, the agents told him to drink from the toilet. He too was eventually released after he posted bond. Along with 6 other plaintiffs, the couple is suing federal immigration agencies, asserting they were officially profiled and illegally targeted. The lawsuit says the couple fears they'll be profiled and arrested again. An ICE spokesperson did not return a request for comment on the lawsuit. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from Buffalo Rising on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Figuring the future of the Buffalo News. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette is the latest daily to convert to a nonprofit. Could that be in store for the News? Probably not, but let's ponder. A decade ago, the owner of the Philadelphia Inquirer gave up hope of returning the storied newspaper to profitability and donating it to a foundation, which now operates it and the tabloid Philadelphia Daily News as nonprofits. 7 years ago, the owner of the Salt Lake Tribune converted his daily newspaper into a nonprofit. Things are going well, although the paper will never enjoy the prominence it once had. Last week, the owner of Pittsburgh Post-Gazette sold the paper to an institute that will operate the paper as a nonprofit. Given the Post-Gazette's recent troubled history, things can't help but get better. Could nonprofit status be in the future of the Buffalo News? I doubt it. David Hoffman, the new billionaire owner of Lee Enterprises, which owns the News, says he knows what it takes to run a profitable newspaper and will no doubt work to leave his mark on our local daily. Have at it, I say, as there's a lot to be done to repair the damage Lee's previous management inflicted on the News. The thing with nonprofit status is it doesn't change the trends that are battering the newspaper industry. Thanks to the internet and the failure of newspapers to sufficiently change with the times, the industry is hurting for both revenue and readers. The folks taking over in Pittsburgh own the Baltimore Banner, a nonprofit that launched in 2022. I spent a day at the Banner a couple of years ago to soak up what I could. An impressive operation, with a newsroom staff more than double what the Buffalo News employs, and a Pulitzer Prize to its credit. The Banner has plans to expand to fill some of the void the Washington Post has created through its radical downsizing. That said, the Banner is still not profitable. Hoffman is going to take his time and money to reverse the fortunes of the 75 Lee papers he now owns. Most are relatively small operations, not dissimilar to the papers, most of them weeklies, that he already owned. It's not inconceivable that he'll learn over the next few that his hyper-local strategy for revitalizing newspapers doesn't work at the major dailies he's taken on, starting with the News and St. Louis Post-Dispatch. At that point, he might consider selling them off. The questions are to whom and for how much. The News is still making money, and I'm told could fetch up to $50 million, a price that is likely to go down as the paper's fortunes continue to fade. Is there that kind of interest or money in Buffalo? Or interest from one of the other newspaper chains that operate elsewhere in the state that might want to expand their footprint? A nonprofit owner could be another option, and here's the intriguing thing. Tom Wiley, the former publisher of the Buffalo News, now heads the National Trust for Local News, which has done work for both for-profit and nonprofit publishers. And he's still working out of Buffalo. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. The paper is still making money, and the near future is all about what Hoffman does with Lee Enterprises and how that affects the news. I'm frequently asked if and when the news might go out of business. My answer? The paper isn't going anywhere in the foreseeable future. Its staff and therefore its news coverage will continue to shrink, but whoever is owning the paper will continue to cut expenses, i.e., staff, to keep the paper in the black. Think the news has a small staff at 45 journalists. The neighboring Rochester Democrat and Chronicle is down to 25. Some perspective on the prospect of the news going the nonprofit route. There are about 1,000 printed daily newspapers in the country. All of 4 have gone non-profit. Compare that to more than 500 digital nonprofits, most of which have opened for business over the past decade. Their growth has been exponential. When I launched Investigative Post as a nonprofit, of course, back in 2012, there were only about 50 news nonprofits. Digital nonprofits are the only sector of the media industry that is growing. Converting a struggling daily newspaper to a nonprofit might work here and there, but the future of nonprofit journalism will be driven by entrepreneurial journalists, not chains looking for a soft landing for their failing businesses. A federal judge has put the Nexstar-Tegna merger on hold. His reason that an ongoing lawsuit challenging the legality of the merger is likely to succeed. The Associated Press reported the plaintiffs, who include New York Attorney General Letitia James, contend the merger will lead to higher prices for consumers, stifle local journalism, and that the deal runs afoul of federal laws designed to protect against monopolies. If approved, the merger is expected to result in at least a partial consolidation of the newsrooms of WIVB Channel 4 and WGRZ Channel 2. Good news for downtown's theater district. Its 8-screen movie complex will reopen this week. 2 national chains tried and failed to make a go of it, but Joe Masher, the new owner, is confident he can make a go of it. I met with him a couple weeks ago and liked his vision so much that I've decided Investigative Post is going to screen documentaries in one of his theaters quarterly. More details to come. Ari and Julie Israel, founders of Save the Michaels of the World, are hopping mad that their nonprofit agency booted them off the board and closed down the operation. They're suing their former organization for $675,000. Save the Michaels was a fair-haired boy to funders until word got out of allegations of financial mismanagement, among others. And Ken Crewley, a smart numbers guy, offers his perspective on Mayor Sean Ryan's proposed budget. He concludes, the new city budget is an important step on the road to fiscal stability. Water quality in Lake Erie has come a long way in recent decades, but not nearly far enough, reports The Guardian. Quote, While water quality on Lake Erie today has improved since the days of it being used as a large-scale industrial dumping ground for steel mills, the chemical plants, it still struggles with poor water quality. Then, the 2025 State of the Great Lakes report released last month found that Lake Erie still ranks poorly for pollution caused by chemical runoff and is by far the biggest body of water to consistently rank in the top 5 of America's most polluted lakes. John Simperman knows sports marketing and hosts Skin in the Game, a weekly podcast on the business of sports. His show last week on how Sports Arena can help revitalize a downtown is relevant to Buffalo. A lot of cases against protesters and bystanders during immigration sweeps have been tossed because video evidence showed agents lied about the circumstances. An investigation by ProPublica and Frontline found over and over those accusations fell apart under scrutiny. Our reviews of court files found that statements made by the arresting officers were repeatedly debunked by video footage. In more than a third of the cases, prosecutors quickly dismissed charges that couldn't be substantiated, refused to find charges at all, or lost at trial.
You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Investigative Post. We read from the Investigative Post on Thursdays at 8:30. Your reader for this half hour has been Janice Stanek. Thank you for listening. Good morning. Welcome to another broadcast day on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, a private, not-for-profit organization. As always, please feel free to contact us with your comments, suggestions, or then questions you may have. Our phone number here is area code 716-821-5555. As always, please stay with us. Our Waffle News is coming up in just a second. As I mentioned, contact us with those comments, suggestions, or questions if you got them.